Hello, everyone. Welcome to Her Story Unscripted. I am very honored to have Donna here. Donna and I just met maybe a year or two ago through some networking events and groups. We did this really cool collab together, and that's really where I feel like I really got to know you. But you are very present online, which is something that I definitely want to dive a little bit more into. But there's something about you, like you're just so genuine and kind, and you have this like really energetic energy, but you have like a really heavy story. And so I think there's like so much to say about that, how we internalize so much of what goes on behind the scenes, but we still show up authentically and raw and happy. And so I think this will be part of this conversation. And so I'm really excited to have you.
Well, thank you for having me, and thanks. So
Yeah.
quite an intro there. Thank you so much, though. I have to say, you are a brave woman for having me on a podcast with the word unscripted in the title. Just saying.
Okay. Let it out. Honestly,
I
like
won't
that.
let you feral. I promise.
That's the thing, though, is I think, and you and I, when we saw each other this week, so we kind of like
Yeah,
had a little pre-conversation. But that's the
yeah,
thing, is that we do show up with the script, right? We don't want anyone to
yes,
know the ugly, the messy, the story behind our like we
yes.
all internalize it. But what if, as women, we were to show up authentically and tell our story raw and be real, like how many lives I think we could change and how we can inspire other women to come forward and be proud. And I think in a time like this in our world, like we need more women's voices to speak up to make change. And so that is why I changed the name to it. So I'm
I
here
love
for whatever comes out of your mouth.
it. Be afraid. No, I'm kidding. No, I think that you make a really, really valid point, and I think it's something that um, it's tough, right? There is a script, and I want to talk a little bit about that as we get going. But there is sort of this script and this expectation, and it's kind of an expectation that we show up graceful, we show up in a way that makes other people comfortable,
Mhm.
and sometimes to help others, to help ourselves, we need to be able to speak candidly and openly and honestly.
Yeah. So I'm here for it. Okay, so let's go back to little Donna. Like, where did you grow
Oh,
up? Like, you don't have to go like into that detail, but
wow. I
enough
was going
to
to
like
say we're going deep.
because one of the things we're going to talk about is marriage and your divorce. So that is part of the journey, right? Like, where did you meet your husband? And you have two children. And so take us back a little bit. You don't have to go back to like
Okay.
five-year-old Donna, but like where your journey kind of started.
Oh, wow. I was not anticipating that. This is the unscripted part, huh?
He is the unscripted.
Um,
Surprise.
so I grew up in the Bay Area. I essentially grew up to a single mom or with a single mom. I didn't really have a father in my family unit, if you will. Um, I met my husband or ex-husband at we were both still in college. He is older than I am, but he was still in college, so I met him there. We dated for about a year and a half when my early, like 19, 20, maybe into 21, something like that. He was 23, 24, 25, like that age. And then we broke up for 5 years and then ended up getting back together. I'm not going to go into all the details of all of that, but we were married. We were together for 23 years or so, married for about 20 by the time. So there's the quick. I don't want
Uh,
to age myself, but Reader's Digest version. Remember that?
That's so funny. My first husband, we were together for like 2 years, and then we broke up, and then got married. And so it's
Wow.
interesting how you and I was the same age, right? Like when I first started dating him, I was like 21, and then I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not ready to date. I mean, I'm not ready to settle down. I want to still date. I still want to be young and free, and I did for that for a
Yeah.
few years, and then ended back, and then that's a whole nother story. Anybody can listen back to
Right.
my divorce story, but yeah. So I see you on that situation.
Yeah.
So, and then you had two kids. How old are your kids
Yes.
now?
My daughter just turned 18, so and my son is 19, so pretty quick succession.
And they're home? One lives away.
One is away at college on the East Coast, and the other is graduating this month and will also be going to college on the East Coast. So I think one of the things I want to talk about today is sort of, let me say, first of all, I never anticipated I would be on podcast talking about midlife reinvention. I mean, that was never on any sort of vision board. So it's kind of funny to be talking about this, but that's all part of this journey too, because I will have an empty nest, like an official, real empty nest. And that is also a really big life altering event on the heels of all these other life altering events. So that's going to be kind of crazy, but she'll be off in the fall. So,
I'm actually really jealous of you
oh,
because I
oh,
have
wow.
all of my kids out. Well, my oldest is out at college, but the other three are home, and my little guy's 4. So I have like a really
Oh,
long
you've got a
road
long
until I'm by
runway.
myself. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yes, it's so hard though. The time goes so quick.
I know.
I such that, you laugh because people said that to you when you were young and or when the kids are young. You probably heard it with your youngest. The days are long, but the years are short, and you go, uh-huh, sure, as you're, mucking around town, with juice boxes up the wazoo and whatever, and so it the old adage is true though. You look back on it, you cannot believe it.
I know.
So
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
crazy.
I know. I'll appreciate it, but I am a little jealous of you. I'll just come to your house for a wine night.
Exactly. I got
Yeah.
I got wine. Just come on over, girl.
Okay, Donna. So you've had so you said that you hinted that you have an ex-husband, but
I
it
did.
wasn't it was probably not the split that anybody is expecting. And obviously like I want to respect your privacy and the situation. So as much as you want to tell the story of what happened there.
Right. Um, I guess I will say it was an unplanned, unanticipated end to a long-term relationship, pretty much my entire adult life. And so and it was hard. It was a really, really difficult situation. And so I guess how much do I want to go into it? I don't know, but I can say that it really was a life altering event. I kind of think of it a little bit like one of those events, where you're standing on the edge of a cliff kind of a thing. And you either, it's like you can't step backwards because that ground's too shaky. And if you step forward, you're going to kind of go over the cliff. And so it was a really tough time and almost a little bit, I mean, it really makes you have to reevaluate your entire existence. And so I guess that doesn't necessarily really answer your question, but as you can imagine, it really forced me to look at who I am, who my identity is separate from this relationship, and sort of learn how to forge a path forward, if you will.
Mhm.
I don't know if that answered your question at all. I might have
No,
danced around a little
no.
bit.
And I know your story. Obviously don't know the very nitty gritty details of it. And obviously I don't know the people that were involved, but
Yeah.
I do think it would be safe to say that your husband cheated on you. And I think as a woman, that's something hard and it's something that we don't like to talk about because again,
Right.
like there's probably a lot of shame and all the things that come up. But I think that is the most powerful part of your story is that that happened to you and both are still here in the community that you live in and how brave you are to walk forward and see a path forward in a beautiful light. And I know that it was probably messy and ugly and
Yeah.
stressful, and I'm sure there was a lot of crazy stories, but I do want the listeners to know that like that rocked your world in such a crazy way. And what I admire about you is how you were able to move past it and move
Thank
forward.
you. I I guess I will say that all I can really talk about is my own experience, my own perceptions. This is the reality that I walk through. I'm not here to analyze anybody. I'm not here to analyze anybody's motivations or intentions or anything like that. I'm going to put that disclaimer out there. I could simply share my experience. And that's really it. And I'm sorry I'm dancing around it. I'm trying to, I guess a good segue is, it's really hard to speak about these things. And I just read, I think I mentioned it to you the other day. Everybody kept sending me the Bell Burden memoir, right? Everyone kept sending me strangers, a memoir of a marriage. And you got to read this book. You got to read this book. And yes, it was very triggering. But there was some takeaways from that book beyond the actual infidelity and breakdown of the marriage. And one of the things that she talks about is, you alluded to it earlier, was this script and this expectation and this societal expectation to behave in a certain way and to continue to speak in a narrative that makes everyone comfortable, that doesn't feel so ucky and yucky and all those kinds of things. And there's also a genuine fear, for lack of a better way, of talking about this. And I've always tried to remain very sensitive, conscious to how I kind of articulate my story, partially out of respect for my children,
Yeah.
partially just because I think there's so much more to this beyond the actual what happened. And I could go into it. I could go on and on. I mean, there's so much you'd like to say. And that's not really the value in this.
100%.
I think, the value in this is looking at, again, however it is that you feel you need to sort of move through and pass this, is where that is. So Belle Burden chose to just come right out and say it. And, she talks a lot about how frustrating and difficult it was for her to have this expectation that she not say, my husband left me for another woman and isn't planning on coming back and doesn't care. That's her story. And it's how she was comfortable saying it. Everybody sort of has a different way that they deal with it. The way that I chose to deal with it was not that far off in some ways, and that she really leaned into her writing and things like that. And that's somewhat what I did too. I started journaling. That's really how this all started. Like, I literally opened up the notes section in my phone and I just started journaling because I needed an outlet. I needed some way to get these feelings and thoughts and all of these things out of me and out of this constant rumination and, questioning and all of these kinds of things, and get it out somewhere. And that's what I did. And from that, I made that determination, or I kind of figured out, you know what, I'm not the only person. And let me also say, this doesn't necessarily have to be about infidelity or betrayal or any of those kinds of things. It could be about any of those situations where you feel you're on the edge of a cliff, right?
Yeah.
It could be serious illness. It could be the loss of, grief over the loss of a loved one. It could be the loss of a long-term career. There are so many situations where you feel like you're in this position where you can't go backwards. And if you go too far, you're just going to go straight over. And so I have tried to channel that energy, those feelings, into something that I felt could be helpful to others. And if nothing else, laugh. I mean, if you don't laugh, you cry, I guess. And so that's really how I kind of got to where I am.
I always say, and I say this probably every episode, should be a quote of mine, that the guests that I have on my show, on the day that they come on my show, I always feel like whatever message they have, it's like you're speaking to my soul because it's like whatever I'm going through, right? And my relationship right now with my husband is not great. We definitely have some hard things that we're working through. And it literally was to yesterday that I was in my head thinking about all of these things, like running through
Right.
all the your thoughts, your feelings, how you behaved, what you need to work on. And I just started, I actually use this app called Liven, which
Okay,
if you
yeah, it's
haven't heard of
the
it, it's
I have
actually
heard of it.
really cool. Yeah, like they educate you, but then there's also like journaling and prompting and all that stuff. And so I just
Right.
started voice texting how I felt that day just to be able, I felt so free after I could just get it out of my head
Yeah.
onto somewhere where it's not floating around in my head. I can, I still have it so I can look back and see my journey. But it's so interesting that you said that because I just did that today and I just felt so much better just like getting it out of my head.
Rumination is tough, and we all do it to some degree. And I think when something happens in your life and you can't make sense of it, I think we as human beings have a deep seated need to make sense of situations. If you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it kind of concept. And sometimes some situations just are nonsensical.
Mhm.
Sometimes you also have to come to the conclusion, and I guess I'm specifically talking about this kind of a situation where you can't control the actions of others.
Mhm.
There's only so much you can do, and you have to have self-reflection. You have to have self-actualization. You want to be able to take responsibility for things that, any contribution you could have had, but there are certain situations that people are going to do what they do, regardless of what it is that you might have done in a relationship or whatever. And for me, this is one of those things that really has very little to do with you.
Yeah.
Those decisions, those choices really are not reflective of the other individual, no matter what it is in the situation. That's a choice, that's an action that you really have very little control over. That's a very difficult pill to swallow, I think.
Yeah.
And for someone that wants to kind of or is sort of driven in that direction of wanting to take responsibility or determine what they could do to be better, it's really hard sometimes to understand that and to
Mhm.
accept that. And so we tend to ruminate. We
Yeah.
tend to just circle the drain and go, all right, what did I do? What can I do? What happened? And you can what happened it until the cows come home.
Yep.
What happened happened. So that's something that's pretty common, I think. And so journaling is a way that you can do that. And in Belle Burden's situation, she just straight up wrote about it. So good on her. But it's definitely something that I think we have to find a way to get that out. The other thing that I for me, humor has been huge. I tend to be a pretty self-deprecating person. It tends to be what I do. And so it was a very comfortable medium for me. It was a comfortable way for me to sort of, and I've been very, again, it's not like I'm not just out there saying whatever. I joked about it earlier, but I really am not. But I think just trying to laugh at ourselves and laugh at situations is healing in and of itself. So,
Talk about your platform that I've been writing down notes, but that's one
yeah.
thing that you have been focusing on is I always slaughter your social media name. So can you just say,
Laugh lines and life goals.
yes, I will get
I
it
know it's a little
someday.
bit of a mouthful, right? But
But I love it, right? But you show up, and as somebody who's older, I know you're in my age range. We have like we fear being on social media. We fear
yes,
being on video. We
yes,
fear at showing up and laughing at ourselves or being silly. Talk
right,
about like how you like broke through that because I
right.
think that is such an important thing. And I have more questions leading up to that, but I'll let you answer that first.
Okay. So I was not huge on social media when all this started. I had Facebook, like everybody our
I thought
age
you were going to
had.
say MySpace.
Oh
I'm kidding.
God.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Not that bad. Come on, girl.
I know, kidding.
Yeah, no, I had Facebook. I really wasn't. I would post a little bit on Instagram, but I wasn't. I definitely I had never done a reel in my life. I hadn't done any of those things, and I think what really was sort of the genesis of all of this was I was so broken. I felt so. I just felt like a shell of myself. And I really wanted to show others that you can be vulnerable, you can be in a place. I felt like it was a way for me to be able to heal. That's what I really used this as a vehicle to do. And that's really all it, honestly, I have said many times, people go, what are you doing? Like, what's your goal? What's your, what's your, whatever, what's your mission type of thing? And honestly, I could say my mission is if this helps anyone feel more seen, more heard, it makes them smile when they are in a dark place, then that's my mission. I just achieved my mission. That was literally it. And it's evolved and grown from there. And there are a lot of cool things that have happened from it, but that's not what this was intended to be. This was intended to be a way for me to get out, get out of my own way, take some control, for lack of a better way, of a situation that I had very little control of, and just lean into being authentic, being genuine, and just putting it out there.
You've done a great job, and we'll
Thank
have people can follow you in the show notes. And I highly recommend it because you do, it's really funny, it's fun. And funny, we did this like little mastermind class together. We did like a
you.
content day, and it was cool to watch you in your element producing this content because again, like I'm still learning how to create content and show up and video and all that stuff. But you make it look so easy and it was absolutely so fun. Like you find these like funny little moments or you find these like funny things that people talk about on a day to day and you're like, I'm going to make a fun video of it. And so
Yeah,
that's what I love about you.
it's really, I have no, and by the way, I have no training in this. I just have crazy things that run through my head. Like I literally have these crazy thoughts and I'm like, I'm going to say it. I'm going to do it. It's not to create any kind of, I'm not trying to create like a, ooh, oh, I'm not going third rail per se. I just want people to smile and laugh. And sometimes it's strangers. Sometimes it's other people that resonate with you, that help you through these really difficult situations and these difficult times. And, I really want people to know you're not defined by what happens to you, but really how you react to it.
Mhm.
And I think that that's what's really important. And I think that this is something that's repeated. Obviously, it happened with Belle Burton, like we were talking about. I was recently reading an article, similar story to her, and I didn't actually realize this, but do you know who Nora Ephron is?
It
She did.
sounds familiar.
So she wrote When Harry Met Sally.
Okay.
She
Uh-huh.
wrote Sleepless in Seattle. She did all those movies, right? I did not know this about her, but when she was 7 months pregnant, she was married to, oh, I can't remember the guy's name, but he was a big journalist. Like this was in the late 70s, but he was involved in like Watergate and things like that. So, big famous journalist of that time. She was 7 months pregnant, found out her husband was having an affair, and she was completely broken, right? I mean, she's 7 months pregnant with her second child. She finds out he's having this affair. She's just like, my whole life is over. And this is in the late 70s, right? So this is not exactly as progressive as the time as we live in now. And so she went on to write, I think it's called Heartburn. She wrote a book and they made it a movie with like Meryl Streep and Jack Nicholson, so like really big people. And it was her life, but she made it fictional. But it was exactly her story. So she was like the original of this, right? And then she went on to have all this tremendous success. When Harry Met Sally, everybody knows When Harry Met Sally, right? Sleepless in Seattle, whatever that, You Got Mail, all those are all her movies. And so there's a really great example of someone that in spite of what happened to her, how she was able to, and whatever that is, you don't have to become someone famous. No one's putting me on a book tour. No one's, like, I'm not, it doesn't have to be that. It just has to be that you find whatever success is for you, however success is defined for you, even if it's just getting up in the morning. I mean, there was a period of time where success for me was just getting out of my robe. I had people literally eating food. I mean, like, it was that bad at a certain point. And if that's success, then that's success. That's okay. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just finding whatever it is that makes you feel like, hey, I can get through this. I'm not going to step over the edge. Right. So I don't know. That was kind of a ramble, but
No, I love it. I think it is such a great perspective because I do think, and I think anything hard, like you were saying, not even just a marriage breakup or, a terminal disease or whatever it is, like there's some kind of joy on the other side of it once you can get through that. And that's why I want these stories on here. That's why I want to be able to talk about it because I know there's someone that's listening that's probably sitting in a situation in a marriage where she knows her husband's cheating or she's unhappy or they know they need to get out of this relationship. And like, what do you do next? Like you feel like, I can't do this. How can I do this? I'm scared. There's fear. But when you hear somebody else who's strong and was able to get through it, I think there's so much power behind that.
what? I'm not going to lie. I think one thing, there's this concept of toxic positivity too, and sometimes that makes things even more difficult on the individual who's going through it. And people don't talk about that because there is, again, it's sort of that script, this expectation that, oh, well, things happen for a reason, or oh, it'll be okay, or sometimes that's not necessarily the best thing for the people that are in that. It's okay to let them live in the suck, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Mm.
Don't, it's not, it doesn't mean that you have to sit and stay in the muck forever, but don't also put these really false expectations on yourself that all of a sudden, oh, okay, well, it'll all be okay, because sometimes it just straight up sucks, and that's okay too. And
Mhm.
so I really always want to be really conscious of false, kind of making people feel also that if they aren't feeling that way or they aren't going, oh my gosh, everything's fine, oh, look at her, she's doing great. There's a lot behind the scenes. I still struggle all the time. There are things happening in real time right now that are pretty awful. And yet you have to choose to try to keep moving forward. And I've talked about that a lot too. And I've talked about that to other people as well. Just that concept of, you know, just try to keep moving forward. It's going to be hard. There are days that you are not going to want to, you are going to just want to stop exactly where you are. You're going to want to curl in a fetal position, and, you have to just put your hand on that wall and just whatever it is that will get you through, just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
It
But
reminds me so much. I just came off watching Mel Robbins on Monday,
oh
and
yeah, yeah, I
that's
want
what
to hear
she
about
talked
that.
about because there was
Oh
a
really?
day, like she literally it reenacts a day where she doesn't want to get out of bed and how she has to get out of bed because she has to like pick up the pieces and not mope around, and nothing's going to happen in a positive light if you don't get up and keep moving forward.
Right.
And so there was a lot of power behind that, I think. But I do agree that sometimes you just have to sit in the yuck, or you have to
Yeah.
also know your limits and your boundaries and when to say no. And that's one other thing that like I really respect you for because we sat in a mastermind and you and I have been involved in like other groups. And we were sitting there because we're like building our business and we want to like move forward. And you've, had this thoughts of like doing your own thing and like starting your own business, but you're not sure what it is. But there was a day where you're like, I just got to take a time out. Like, I need to not continue to think about what I need to do or, what group I need to be a part of or having clarity on where I want my like business career to go. But you were like, I got a lot of shit going on right now and I
Yeah.
just need to like be.
Yeah.
And I
Sometimes you have to
think
press pause.
and you did, and you've like
Yeah.
complete, and that's what I was like. Good for you, because I do think us as women, we're like constantly like, we got to do this, we got to do this, and we got to do this, and we signed it for this, and now we feel like we have to. And like, I'm at a point right now where I need to start shedding some things too, because it's like, I know what's important to me and I know what I need to focus on right now, and all of that other stuff doesn't matter.
Right, right. It's hard though. It's really hard. I just did a reel about that, just talking about that concept of, as women especially, but we always have this conversation. It seems like a conversation we're consistently having about, I have so much going on. I'm so stressed. I can't do this. Um, I should have said no, but I said yes, kind of thing. And it happens all the time. We feel that if we don't, it's like we're almost think we're going to get some kind of gold star for being overextended and, stressed out or whatever. And there is no gold star at the end of
Or
this,
the
friends.
most amount of checklists you like check marks
Right.
you can get for the day of
Right.
your to-do list. Yeah.
Yeah. Like mom's not putting the little stars on the chart for us, right? So,
Yeah.
but it's hard to remember that sometimes because we are and we do live in a society where that sort of go, 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 the more you do, the better you are, right? And so we have to be conscious of that, I think, as women for sure. But it's definitely, and this is let's be honest, who can really raise their hand and say, I've got all my shit together? Like I know exactly what I'm doing. This is exactly who I am and where I'm going. I mean, maybe there are some people, maybe it's the people that are just doing that whole, manifesting. If I say it, it's going to happen. I don't know. I mean, reality is we're all evolving and growing and changing. And that's part of this too. That's part of looking at, we don't have to have it all together. It's a constant evolution. And so we have to realize that. We have to be willing to do that. And I think that's part of this story too.
Yep.
Sometimes it gets forced on you. Sometimes, you know,
One thing that came to mind that I jotted down is, as I mentioned, I do think there's going to be women that are listening to this episode and they're stuck. They're stuck in this relationship that they
right.
know is not good for them, it's not good for their spouse, it's not good for their kids. What is your advice going through it on how to navigate children? Because I think that's the one big piece that most people stay in a marriage is for kids, is they don't want to split their home. And that's like a whole nother conversation because I
That's
did
a
that.
whole, right,
But
right.
from your experience, what are like some like key things that helped you to like navigate that with your kids?
Oh, that's a tough girl. You got hard questions. Um, again, these are just my opinions, my
Yep.
perspectives, my
Yep.
experience, but um, I think you have to honor your children's experience as well. You need to try the best you can. And nobody's perfect, by the way, but you've got to try the best you can to not add your narrative to everything. You just have to let them experience it. You
Mhm.
need to let them, articulate what they need to articulate. You need to honor their feelings as well. And I know that all sounds well and good and easy peasy. Oh, yeah, of course I do that. It's really hard when you're in the situation, and it's really hard when you are experiencing difficult times yourself. It is so difficult to show up. Um, Kids also, and again, kids is a pretty broad. Are we talking 2 year olds? Are we
Right.
talking 12 year olds? Are we talking 22 year olds? I mean, they're all your kids no matter what, but where children are in their, in their sort of, wherever they are age wise, wherever they are maturity wise, there's a lot of variables there. Um, I think though you have to give them the space and the opportunity to, it's
And
really
make
tough.
their
I
own
have no
decisions and let them
self-help.
have their own feelings. And I mean, I
Right.
think that's a hard thing, right? Is you feel some kind of way
You feel
about
some
your
way.
ex, right? But like you have to also let them feel and let them experience and let them have their own opinions without
Yeah.
your own flooding that. And I can imagine that's definitely not an easy thing to do.
It's very, very difficult. And but it's so important. And children are going to you also have to respect their feelings too, for the lack of a better way. I mean, you can't in any direction push your children, whatever direction, if whatever you just can't go in with an agenda. Maybe that's the right way to say it. Like, I really want to make sure my kids do this or do that or whatever. No, you have to let them experience, especially older kids. Again, my kids were teenagers when this happened. So I didn't, I guess if I had, instead of having whatever they were, 13, 14, 14, 16, whatever ages they were there, instead of that, if I had 3, 4 year olds, maybe this would look very different. But you have to let them be able to talk with you, try to listen objectively, without adding commentary. Really, really hard, especially older kids, because older kids aren't stupid. Older kids are experiencing this with you and experiencing this in their own way. So they didn't fall off the turnip truck yesterday. I mean, they're older kids. So, but you still have to try your best to just, and let them do whatever it is they need to do too.
Mm.
That's what's really hard as well. Yeah, that's the best advice I guess I could give. But again, I'm no
Yeah, but
psychologist,
it's your
psychiatrist, whatever it is.
experience, right? Like
Yeah,
you don't have to be an expert in any of this, but it's your
right,
experience and what has helped you through. And I do think
right.
even just hearing someone else's perspective is so
Mhm.
powerful and so inspiring to be like, okay, like here are some tools that I could use. And even just like those little tiny little tidbits, it's like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
just let them be, let them experience or, so
Yeah.
yeah. You don't have to be an expert. Don't worry.
Yeah, I am no expert. I'm an expert in nothing, really. So
Making people
take it or
laugh.
leave it,
Okay,
people. I
friend.
don't know what to say because,
Is there anything else part of your story, part of your journey that you would find that our listeners would get value from?
gosh, that's a hard one. I think it's just, again, just really trying to realize and give yourself grace. That word's such a loaded word. Everybody uses that word. Give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. Um, but it is true to some degree. You are responsible for you. You are responsible for your own actions, your own behaviors, your own reactions. You cannot control the actions, reactions of others. And that's really hard in these kinds of situations. But you have to just take ownership and responsibility for yourself
Hmm.
and just try to understand that, yeah, people are going to do what they're going to do. And it's really tough to not want to control, or just even like wrap your head around.
I mean, that's why Mel Robbins' book is so successful because it's like, let
Oh,
them,
the let them theory, right?
it's like that was what her whole, like her two
Awesome.
and a half
Right,
hour, I wouldn't call it a concert, but her motivational session was about,
right,
right? Is like,
right,
let them be who they are, but let me
right,
be me and let me be who I am. And so I think that's why it has gotten so big because she's probably one of the first people that's actually like doing it.
right, right. And it's hard, and I'm sure, like she probably alluded to, I can't imagine it's easy for her every day to do that
Yeah,
and to say, "Oh, just let them," because it's really hard not to take these things personally.
for sure.
And what if you take it personally? Which, by the way, I have plenty of times. Does that affect anything? Does that affect what is happening or someone's doing? And again, this doesn't necessarily just have to apply to this kind of a situation. This can be any situation. If you're you can react any way you want, but how often is your reaction really affecting anybody else's actions? People have their own agendas, their own motivations, their own interests. And so, yeah, there's a lot of validity in just let them. It's easier said than done.
100%.
Right. Right.
And I do think that especially where you're at in your life, like we talked about laughing and joy and humor, and I think we need more of that. I literally write that in my journal every day that I want more of that. Like I want to find that fun part of me instead of just being so serious all the time and like, so type A and like thinking that I always have to be working and all of these things. And so I think that to me that was like one of the most things, the biggest takeaway I got from you today is just like laugh more, laugh at yourself, like be funny, be vulnerable, you know, find joy.
And I will tell you, if you were to ask many people to describe me, most would probably describe me, especially people I would say in my life before. And I think there's reasons why, but would describe me as type A, would describe me as a driver, would describe me as I was definitely a workaholic for many, many years. I was very driven in what I've done in my career for a long time. I was, there were a lot of reasons I think for that, but people would not normally describe. I don't think anybody described me as easygoing. And so when something happens in your life that forces you to reevaluate your core identity, um, I hate to use the word it's an opportunity. That's, again, that sounds so contrived,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know if I would describe this as an opportunity. However, you could choose to make it an opportunity. And I really wanted to choose to take pieces of me that maybe I didn't feel as good about. Do I still have an inclination to be, kind of a type A person? Yes. And I'm a lot less. I bet you if you were to ask my kids, in fact, I know if you were to ask my kids, because they've literally said it to me, you are very different than you used to be.
Mm.
You are really, I don't get as worked up over things. I tend to be a lot different. And this is funny because I read this in Belle Burden's book too, which I thought was really interesting. She actually talked about this, and I had a really similar situation where when she was married, she had this almost an anxiety to make sure things were perfect, make sure everything was in order. You didn't want a lot of chaos around you. I was very much like that. I know for myself why I was like that. I don't know her situation, but I had that. I was like that. When that was no longer a variable, I am a lot more easygoing. I kids come over here. My daughter has friends over here. Her friends all like they call me Mama D. They like it's like this very different energy. And I guess that there are those things that you can kind of lean into. Like maybe I didn't really like that about myself, and I had an opportunity
Mm.
to evolve and change some. So
Mm.
for what it's worth.
So great. Donna, thank you. I know like talking
Oh,
about a personal thing in such it's a hard thing. And obviously for obvious reasons you can't dive into most of the details. But I
yes.
appreciate you at least like talking about with what you've gone through, have these little takeaways that these women can, take back with them. And, just have a different perception of a life change like that. So I just want to thank you and I appreciate you being here today.
It's fun. Thank you so much.